including respect for sovereignty, independence, and territorial integrity. Only peace founded on these principles will ensure stability for Ukraine and reinforce the rules-based international order that benefits all member states. We will remain actively engaged with partners in pursuit of this goal for the sake of the people of Ukraine. I now resume my functions as President of the Council. I now give the floor to Her Excellency, Ms. Tanja Fajon, Deputy Prime Minister and Minister for Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Slovenia.
Mr. President, Mr. Secretary General, allow me to take this opportunity to thank you for your words today and for your personal engagement on this matter over the past years. Ministers, dear colleagues, I sit here with you today exactly 1 year after I presided over Council meetings on the very same issues, the wars in Ukraine and Gaza. Reflecting on these two conflicts, I cannot ignore the many troubling similarities they share. In both cases, there is aggression by the Russian Federation in Ukraine and by Israel in Gaza, directed against significantly smaller countries. In both cases, international law is being openly and repeatedly violated. And I must ask, how many more times will we need to gather here before we put an end to these tragedies? Dear colleagues, the war in Ukraine has accompanied my entire tenure as Minister of Foreign and European Affairs. As such, I feel compelled to reflect more deeply on some of its aspects, because I fear that over time, certain elements may have begun to fade from our memories. First, now well into its 4th year, this war continues to escalate. We are witnessing a record number of aerial attacks far from the front lines, causing record numbers of civilian casualties across Ukraine. Second, the rationale behind this war keeps shifting. We've heard justifications ranging from the welfare of Russian minority to Ukraine's Euro-Atlantic aspirations, vague security concerns, and accusations of nationalism within its government. But colleagues, let's remind ourselves, under the UN Charter, none of these reasons provides ground for war. None of them can justify aggression. This is not the first time the Security Council has found itself paralyzed, unable to take meaningful action. But that does not absolve us from our responsibility to protect civilians in armed conflict. Just as this applies to Ukraine, it applies equally to Gaza, Sudan, and to any other region suffering the consequences of war. And as with any protracted conflict, we must continue to confront the facts. We must speak out where condemnation is warranted, because failing to do so is failing to acknowledge reality. And without that, meaningful steps forward are rendered impossible. We condemn the violations of international humanitarian law. We condemn the abductions and forcible transfers of children. We condemn attacks on critical civilian infrastructure. We condemn that Russia keeps responding to Ukraine's calls for peace and ceasefire with drone swarms and missile strikes. We condemn this war of territorial conquest that countries to erode the foundations of the UN Charter and the credibility of this organization. Mr. President, Slovenia believes firmly in the urgent need for a ceasefire and the start of meaningful peace negotiations. These are objectives we know the majority of the Council can support. Slovenia stands ready to work towards a just and lasting peace, one rooted in the principles of the UN Charter. Every nation has the right to shape its own future. Every person deserves to live in peace, dignity, and freedom. And my country will continue to aid the Ukrainian people until they achieve what they deserve. Thank you.
I thank Her Excellency Ms. Fajon for the statement. I now give the floor to His Excellency Mr. Lars Løkke Rasmussen, Minister for Foreign Affairs of Denmark.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you for the Republic of Korea for convening this meeting, and Secretary